Hello, friends, and welcome to another video lesson from DBOS Talks. If you haven't subscribed yet, please click subscribe and click the bell so you can be notified of new uploads. This video is in the playlist called SQL Concepts Clarified, and here we'll be learning the difference between decode and case in SQL. Decode and case are very similar commands which allows you to have an if-then-else logic within your SQL statement. Note that in native SQL, which is the RDBMS language to communicate with the database, it is not possible to use an if statement, and this is only possible in a procedural language like PLSQL of Oracle or TSQL, which is Transact SQL of Sybase and SQL Server. Let's have a look at the employees table. Okay. So we have a table here called employees, which is something you might have seen in my previous videos. So we have a couple of records in it, and we'll be using the column called gender in it, which is this one. And of course, it contains gender values in it. And this is how we'll be using it to see the usage of the decode and case commands in action. First, we must know the gender values in this example are stored as single character values, which are M and F, okay? M and F, okay? So those are the two only values in this case, although there's a null here, but you can ignore that for now. For you to understand the decode statement, let me write some pseudocode in here. I mean, paste it in here for you to see. Pseudocode is not the actual code, but it gives you an idea of the flow of the logic. Okay, so let's just say a couple of if statements in here. If gender equals S, which is a string value, then display single, which is also a string. Else, if the gender value is M, then display married. So it's a quite simple flow, just to give you an idea how the decode statement works. So it works like an if then else statement, which is embedded into a select statement. Okay, so hopefully the pseudocode will help you to be prepared for the decode statement. Okay, so now that you've seen that, let me just paste in here the not a pseudocode, but some kind of a pseudocode still, but not really. It gives you the skeletal syntax of a decode statement within a select statement. Okay, so the select decode. So the decode starts from here, where I am marking it with a parenthesis, and it ends here. Okay, so again, the decode works like an if then else statement. Okay, so if you remember the pseudocode I showed earlier, not so long ago, so you remember that the code, so it's like saying if this column name has this value, then display this. If the value is this, then display this, which is another different value compared to the previous one. Optionally, you can display a value here, which is like works like an else statement or an else condition. Okay, so that's how a decode works. It's a decode, and then you have a pair of parentheses, and then the column name, which you are testing, the value of which you are testing, and then the if value here, and then display this. If it's this, then display this. And optionally, you can put an else. And all of those parameters, I put them one in each line so that you will know that each parameter has a comma after it. Okay, there's comma here, comma here, comma here, comma. Okay, so that's the decode statement, the syntax of it. Okay, so now let's use the decode for the pseudocode that we have seen earlier. Okay, so let me just structure it in the same manner that you have seen it so that it's very readable. Although in the normal way, you will not see it in this because it's too consuming too much space. So select gender, which is the column name. Decode, here comes your decode. Okay, in this example, I'm displaying two columns. Two columns will be coming on the output. One is the gender value, which is the raw value of it, and then the decoded value of that. Okay, so the decode is in here. I'm just displaying them side by side so that you will have comparison, okay, of the gender itself, the value, raw value, as well as the decoded. Okay, again, let's revisit the decode statement in here. Okay, so the decode starts from the blue and the blue opening and closing parentheses, as you can see. So it's saying decode gender if this column name, if this column has a value of M, then display male. Okay. If it is F, then display female. And all of these, the values are being taken from the table called employees. Okay, from employees. So that's the syntax of the code. But now that you've seen it's more readable, now I will just put them all together in one line. Let me just get it from where I have it. Okay, so maybe 2 lines is not consuming too much space. So if I execute this, then it will do the thing it's supposed to do. Okay, so select, like I said, it will be displaying the output in 2 columns. The first one is the raw value of the gender, okay, the value being taken from the database, from the table itself. And the second column, which is the result of the processing of the decode statement. Okay, so if you're following the logic, it is saying that if the gender is M, it should display male. If it is F, then it should display female. And since it's null here, then it will display also null, because it could not decode null. Now, you can see that it's working, and you can see the decode at work. Okay, so it's again, it's an if then else statement that kind of, which can be embedded in a select statement. Okay, so that's the decode. Okay, if you'll notice that the column heading is not so user-friendly, the column heading for this second column here, it's not so user-friendly just because it's an expression, so it's displaying also the expression as the column header. So you can, if you wanted to be more readable, pleasing to the eyes, then you could add an alias such as this, and then it will not change the output. The only change will be in the column header itself, okay? So that's a little thing. Now we could further simplify this select statement by removing this second condition here. Why? Because if you see, it's saying if the value is M, display male. If it's F, display female. We can simplify this by, since there are only 2 genders, then you can just remove this condition in here. And the conclusion is that if it's not male, then this is an else value here. If M, display male, else all other values, then display female. So it will still work in the same way, except that this is more minimalistic. It has save you less coding, not so much, but still it's minimalist. Okay, so it's still giving you the same output as before, is correct. Previous one is also correct, but this one, you're making it simplified so that you are not necessarily adding an if condition in your decode. Okay. Now, we have seen the code, and now let's take a look at the case statement. Okay, I'll paste here the syntax of the case. So it's a bit similar as the code. It's also using doing an if-then-else logic, and it can be embedded in a select statement. Okay, so case is a keyword, and then you mention the column name. There are 2 kinds of variation of the syntax, but I will not confuse you, and then just show you this one. Okay, case and then the column name, and then when the value is this, then display this. When value is this, then display this. It's like saying, if this, show this. If this, then show this. So it's similar to what the decode is doing, only that it has its own set of advantages, this case thing. Okay, else optionally you can also display some other value, meaning in a condition other than the previous ones mentioned. The conditions being mentioned in the when clause. Okay, so now that you've seen the syntax of that, let me use the same example, but this time using the case statement. So select gender. So again, I'll be displaying 2 columns. First is the gender, which is the raw value being taken from the table itself. And the second is an expression, which is a case statement. which will do a decoding of the value of gender into something, okay, based on some logic. Okay, so select gender case, this is the column name again, and then when the value is this, then display this. When the value is this, then display this, okay? When M, display male. When F, display female. And then end, you will do an end. And then here is the as an alias, just so we have a readable column header later on once you see the output. Okay, let's execute this. And we see the same output as when we used the decode statement, okay? So they are appearing in two columns. Here, the column name is already okay, header, because we already used an alias in here, okay? But take note that it is doing something the same or equivalent to what is being done by the decode statement. So you have seen the decode statement, you have seen the case statement, okay? And just as what we've done in the decode statement, we also simplify here by, instead of when saying when F is female, then you can just say else, then female. Okay, no then, so I will remove the then, else female. So it will give you the same output. It works the same way. This is the same thing that we've done in the decode where we have removed the second if condition. Okay, so here we removed the second one because there are only two possibilities for this one, for the gender. It's either male or female. So we just use when M is this, when value is M, then display this. Else, all other values, then display female. Okay, so it's working perfectly and as expected. Okay, so we have seen both the decode and the case, and you might ask when to use one or the other. It's actually a matter of preference. However, there are differences to this between these two, and I would like to paste it in here. Case allows an expression instead of just a column name, so it allows even a complex expression, whereas a decode will not. And then related to the above, case allows a more complex logic than decode. Okay, take note of that. And third, a case statement is also more readable than a decode, because you will see that once you get used to use it in your line of work, and then you will see how readable it is when you see a case statement compared to a decode, because a decode usually could only be one line, and the case is more readable. And then to be fair with the code, in certain cases, the code can actually be faster than a case statement. So you've seen the code and case, and I hope you enjoyed and learned something from this video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please click subscribe and click the bell if you and I'll be seeing you in the next video.